Hey, what's up everybody? Rob Marzullo here, Ram Studio Comics. Welcome back. So in today's video, I want to try one where we draw a similar face in 3 different styles. So I've been wanting to do this video for a while because I think it's important to study like the difference from, like caricature to, cartoony to comic style to realism, whatever, like all the different variations that you can get inside of that. So I'm going to start with a very kind of animated style, and then we'll work up from there and do something a little more realistic American comic or whatever, just different styles anyways. I think the practice of this just teaches you so much. So with the first one here, I'm just going to designate, the general placement of the features and things like that. Just give myself some rough guides to work with. Nothing too critical. And generally with a cartoon style, you're going to need a lot less of this. So I'm just going to kind of jump right in here and, do something rather quickly. Say something like this, slight open, small smile. And I'm being a lot less critical of the overall placement. So this is kind of like when I did caricatures for parties back in the day. This is kind of how I would do that. I would just kind of throw features in there and be really not so critical about where they land so much. I mean, you could like rough sketch in those lines and then draw our ink over top. But some of the little awkwardness of it not being perfect would lend to the humor basically, and the animated vibe that you're going for. So as well as maybe over accentuating size of the ears or something like that. You could give it a little bit bigger animated ears, a little bit wonky in the way that you throw in the shapes. And maybe a little bit larger chin shape like that. And as far as the hair, same thing. So I could designate the shape, the perimeter, edging of the hair, something like that. But then I can get in there and just kind of just throw in some big shapes and not really worry too much about accuracy. Now the beauty of these types of styles too as well is that they're just so much quicker to draw out. You can do a lot more. So one of the things I kind of wanted to mention in this video, if you find yourself having a tough time getting books done and things like that, if you're talking comics, then you might really want to entertain the idea of a more animated, laid-back style like this, because it's so much easier to sketch something like this out, and then in turn, obviously, do all the other things like inking and developing everything else. So that's our basic sketch. So this is more what I would consider more of a cartoony kind of feel. Maybe not even so much caricature. Let's actually make this our middle one. I'm going to scale this up, and I'm going to do one that's more animated because I feel like this one could almost be, not as animated as I was really shooting for. So let's do that. Let's make this our middle of the row. And then now we'll go ahead and do a more animated version of this. Okay, so now the animated style, and actually I think I want to move this one over. I'm left-handed, so I like working to the very left of my canvas here. Alright, so anyways, the more animated one, I'm going to go a little bit less construction lines, because I think that's what lended this to being a little bit more refined, I guess. So typically with the more animated style, I might just jump right in there and start throwing the features in. So not even worrying too much about all those rough sketch lines in place. I might do a little bit more of a wider open eyes kind of look. Generally too, thicker lines all the way around, for that kind of cartoon vibe. So a lot less variance from thick to thin lines, and just going with, in fact, I might even just scale the brush up to make that easier to accomplish. As well as, maybe like the thicker eyebrows. That tends to make it look more cartoony. I'm trying to keep the same kind of flow to the character on our right here, but you know, as I develop it and make it look a bit more cartoony, it's going to tend to lose some of the attributes from the previous one. Okay, so now the shape of the face. Now, again, with the shape of the face, I didn't get in here and do a lot of the cheekbones and stuff like that, but I would maybe even go a step further and do a very, you know, especially for caricatures, I used to do the face shapes like just very animated, very loose. You know, even that, I wasn't so worried about a crooked chin shape like I'm trying to be right there. Mainly too because when I was doing them that way, I was doing them with Sharpies. I couldn't have the ability to go back. So whatever line I put down, I was forced to live with, which there's a lot to be said for doing those types of studies as well. So this is just a fun exercise and allows you to really explore different things about your art style, and try new things is always great. So same thing with the hair. I'm just going to try to get in as much of it in as quickly as I can with the really as little as the least amount of lines, I should say. Just kind of try to hurry up, throw those in there. Trying to get in some of the same details, but maybe make it look a bit more cartoony. Is that even a word? Cartoony? I don't know if that's a word. Maybe, maybe not. Today it's a word. Okay, so just studying that shape off to the side. Trying to get it to look somewhat like that character. So the character actually looks quite a bit different now, which I think is prone to happen based on this type of effect. The other thing is I'd like, especially would do this with my characters, I'd give them a very skinny neck. So that was another way to immediately cartoonify. Now I know that's not a word, but we'll try it out anyways. I'll select the, oh, that's not a selection. It's M for marquee. I'm working inside of Manga Studio today, and I went to use the L key, which is synonymous with or specific to Photoshop. I always get them confused because they actually work a lot in the same ways. Command D to deselect. Select this one. Okay, so now this one is a bit more, I don't know, realistic. Not realistic, but just a different style. And now what I'll do is I'll attempt to do one. I should really clean this one up though, shouldn't I? Just a little bit because it looks just too rough compared to the other one. So you can see that the other one to our left was quicker to do. It was cleaner because of the quick line making, sweeping lines. So where this one would require at least some, let's do P on the keyboard for pencil, at least some cleanup to make it look, you know, a little bit accurate. So I'm going to go back through here real fast. Maybe get a little bit of that cheekbone in. So I'm using a little bit more angular lines. So that, of course, is changing the style. I can't draw a straight line across the chin to save my life. I don't know what's going on there. Keep in mind too, when people ask, I'll get a lot of questions on the channel, how do you make clean lines? Always remember that a quicker line pull is going to generally give you a cleaner line. So there's lots of other things that go into that. I've been drawing for 20 plus years and things like that. So your line making is going to get better with time like that. But you can remedy it a bit right now today by just doing quicker line passes. And especially if you're working digital, I'll keep my hand hovered over the Command Z or Control Z if you're working on a PC. And you can do this thing where you go, well, I want to see how many ways I can throw this line into place and get just the right line. A lot of artists work that way and come up with some really clean artwork. So just keep that in mind, that those quick little passes that you see, it's kind of called throwing the line, basically, is very important for clean line making. And, you know, I tend to sketch my lines at times too and can still come up with a clean line, but it's not going to be as quick and it's not going to be as fluid of a motion as getting used to throwing that line. If that's the right term, I'm not sure. You're welcome to correct me, as people often do on the channel here. I learn as much from you guys as you guys learn from me. Let's put it that way. Okay, so there's our brows. You can see I did a little bit more separation, so again, makes it look a little bit less cartoon-like, cartoonish. I'm trying to think of all the ways I can say cartoon descriptive terms. Cartoonadocious. Alright, that was just weird. Now you're getting weird. Okay, so some pupils, and almost done with the cleanup. There we go. There's our slight cleanup of Joe Schmo here. Okay, so now let's do our final representation, and this one's going to be a little bit more what I consider like the style that I would traditionally do, and it's more of like an American comic style. So with this, I would draw a bit more construction lines. So pretty much how I started the middle sketch, the first sketch, but I would just do more and more of that. So I tend to draw on lots of little construction lines to really feel out the forms before I start placing in the features. So something like this. You know, you can do as many as you need to. If you feel like your alignment's off, then you can do a lot more lines going symmetrically across the face. I don't think you need to worry too much about it. You know, it depends on how critical you are of your own work, obviously, but so placement for the nose, and generally you can just go, you know, things like this, halfway down from the head, approximately go the brow, halfway down from there goes approximately the nose, and then the last part you can just kind of mark into thirds. That'll give you your top lip placement. You know, this is going to be an open mouth, so the bottom lip will be a little bit lower. So there's all our construction lines, and then, you know, the brows generally will give you placement for the ears, and the bottom of the ears will line up to the nose, all that fun stuff. Okay, and the neck's going to be a bit wider than both of the predecessors. Like that. And now I'll start to drop in some of the features. I'll tend to make the eyes a bit smaller by comparison. A little bit more serious. Like, you know, this guy, he's a tough guy. And he knows it. You know, maybe smaller features altogether. You know, so basically it makes the face more, you know, thicker and more muscular by having the features smaller by comparison. Maybe even not a, no, I'll still have him smiling. I was going to say, if we really want to toughen him up, we take away the smile, but we want to keep it looking like the same character, so we'll do that smile. You see this type of sketch, I'm probably already over the time it took. I'm definitely already over the time it took for the first one, or, you know, what I mean by first one is the more cartoon-like. But it will definitely take the longest because I'm trying to add in more detail. I'm trying to think a little bit more about, not perspective, but the proportion differences and things like that. So the brow line will be about here. So again, with the hair, I'm going to end up making it more detailed. It'll still have the same shapes, but a lot smaller segments. And that's not really necessary, because you'll see a lot of styles where they'll do a more detailed face, but they'll still tend to have, like, you know, maybe more animated hairstyle or clothing and things like that. So it's really, you know, like anything else in art, there's really no set rules that you have to abide by, as much as there is, like, you know, use what works for you in your own style and your own creation process. You know, I always think of it like adding tools to the toolbox kind of thing. So, you know, you find what works for you, and then you incorporate that into your own specific style, and you know, whatever happens, happens. Okay, so there's enough base information. Probably taking too long to do this part, but there it is. Like that. I'll probably still give him some pretty heavy eyebrows because it, I don't know, it just kind of helps detail the face. Okay, so there's that. Let's go ahead and soft erase this. First, let's scale it up just a little bit. And deselect. Okay, now soft erase, so I hit E for eraser. And I would probably even add another level of refinement into a sketch like this. So where you've seen this one was pretty much drawn pretty much right out the gate. This had one level of refinement. I'd probably go with 2 right there. We'll see how it comes out before I commit to that, but that's just generally how I do it. Like, the more detailed the artwork is, the more level of refinement. I'll generally rough sketch a few times before I go to inks, things like that. So definitely becomes a lot more time intensive to produce these types of styles. So that's where you really got to be aware of. That's what you really want to commit yourself to. I know I've often kind of battled that in my own art style with my Blackstone comic and things like that. If I really should just speed things up by simplifying the art style for the sake of getting content, getting books out there. It's probably, you know, I still battle that concept. I probably should just do it because, but it's a tough one. You know, if you really have an affection for a specific type of style, and that's what you see yourself doing, it's tough making that that adjustment in one's self, that compromise, I guess. So I'm gonna get a little bit of the cheekbone in there. Probably leave some of that out. But I think that's where artists that get really good at drawing a specific style that looks detailed, but they can do it quickly. That's really the quintessential ingredient that you need in your workflow. You know, because if it's amazing artwork, but it takes you a week to produce a page, then it's no good. So again, I'll use more strands and more texture to detail the hair than I would on the other ones. I always have to focus when drawing hair. I don't know why that is. So forgive me for being silent as I devote all my brain cells to drawing this hair. All 7 of them. Okay, so there's some hair, kind of. I'd get in there and shade it further and spend even more time trying to develop this hair. It's crazy that it takes me that long to draw cool hair. And let's see, so the smile, I want to bring that lip up a bit. Looks like it's too low. So I want to make sure probably to not make the mouth so wide by comparison. Just to add a little bit more realism. Okay, and then the jawline. So what I want to do here is get a little bit more of the cheekbones in there. So again, more evident than the previous step. And try to clean up and make the jawline more even and symmetrical if I can. Symmetry is always my Achilles heel. And then now for the ears, I'd even add in more detail to the ears. So getting in just these tiny little curvatures to make it look a little bit more realistic. Hopefully, anyways. Almost there, almost there. You guys are probably like, hurry up, Rob. My goodness. No wonder your comics take forever to come out. You know, and more brow lines, and, you know, I guess that's changing it more to an angry look, but it could be said that more of that detail would enhance it too. You know, make it look a little more realistic, some more wrinkles to the skin, and just overall more details. So, yeah, so the big differences here, finish this up. So the big differences here are really just overall proportions, thickness of the lines, more simplistic lines and quicker expressive lines for the cartoony look, and then more overall details and variation of line thickness to get a little bit more of a American comics kind of feel, and something that would typically be a little bit more detailed and maybe realistic. So with that, let's go ahead and do this. This video is already getting a little bit lengthy. I would like to refine these just a hair more. There's still some flaws there. It could be fixed up and cleaned up and things like that. But what I'll do is I'll time lapse this next part, and I'll go ahead and ink these in and see what we come up with. So let's do it. Okay, so there we have it. That's essentially how I would draw 3 different variations, and I would pretty much classify the first one as cartoony, the second one is animated, and the third one in the comic style that I like to create, which is American comics. So essentially, there's lots of other things that are out there to explore and things to try, but I think this exercise is really important, and it helps you to gauge how much of any one of these you want to lean towards, you know, and how much of that expressiveness you want to see, how much maybe caricature style you want in your work versus realism and things like that. So I'd be interested to know what you thought of this video, and as well as if you'd like to share the work, if you try this exercise and you'd like to share it with everyone, you can send it to my Ramp Studio Comics Facebook page, or you can send it to my DeviantArt, and I can at least see it through a private message there. So I'll leave links in the description box below. And as always, keep drawing, keep having fun, and I will talk to you soon.